Summary: his account of his disappointment in love. We have the description of his first meeting with the widow. He was in his 23rd year, young and proud of the handsome appearance. He saw the widow first in the court over which he presides in his capacity of country magistrate. The case being tried was related to the widow's inheritance. The widow had many admirers, and Sir Roger was added to this just as she cast a look upon him. She captivated his heart and bewitched him, and Sir Roger's love affair. The visit to the widow's house not successful. After losing his heart to the widow at the court, Sir Roger felt encouraged when he was told by someone that the widow considered Sir Roger to be the tamest and most human of all the brutes in the country, and decided to call upon her. He got new uniforms made for his servants, new masks to coach horses, sent them to town to learn to trot properly, and then ventured to visit the widow. On seeing her, however, Sir Roger was so overawed that he sat silently, unable to utter a word. Seeing the embarrassment of the knight, the widow started speaking on love and honor, and false and true followers of these sentiments. Sir Roger was even more awestruck and impressed. It did not help matters any more when the lady's confidant remarked that Sir Roger's silence showed that his reply, when it came, would be truly exhaustive of the subject. Puzzled and embarrassed, Sir Roger took his leave after half an hour of silence in which he could not decide what to say. Sir Roger's love is not reciprocated. After the unhappy experience of the visit to the widow's house, Sir Roger had often met the widow. On this strange meeting too, the widow always made elaborate and involved discourses to Sir Roger, which left him completely bewildered and awed. He found the widow rather cruel and hard-hearted, even though he considered her also to be the most beautiful woman in the world. He knew that she had treated all her admirers rather shabbily, but he could not help loving her. He had carved her name on the trees of one of the avenues, one on his estate, to get some relief from his overwhelming and hopeless passion, but this only served to enhance his unhappiness, for whenever he saw the avenue, he was reminded of her. We read about the love affair in the essays. His account of his disappointment in love, and Sir Roger's reflection on the widow. The effect of his disappointment in love. Sir Roger was sure enough to realize that the disappointment in love had left indelible scars on his mind. It was a disappointment which he would never be able to get over completely. He felt that the disappointment in love had made him somewhat careless in his speech and manner of thinking. It had given rise to a certain inconsistency of behavior and speech which amused people. His mind had been slightly unbalanced. so that often said something absurd or totally irrelevant in the middle of a serious conversation. But the love affair had also had a beneficial effect on him. It had taught him to become more gentle and patient and more lenient towards people, even towards his enemies. But the experience had left a lasting imprint on him. Whenever he thought of the widow, he felt that his youth had returned. He had often hoped that the widow would have some difficulty so that he could prove to be of help to her, but soon afterwards felt that he did not want this to happen, for he did not really want her to be burdened with an obligation to him. This shows the innate kindness and generosity of Sir Roger. The role of the confidant. According to Sir Roger, the widow might just have learned to return his love if it had not been for her confidant. It was this female who was vicious enough to instigate the widow against Sir Roger. Sir Roger's view on confidence show a mixture of sweetness and simply bitterness. The confidants prevent their mistresses from getting married by throwing in their faces the dictums the mistresses themselves had formulated against men and marriage. The confidant acquires great power and influence over the mistress's mind and wields this power mercilessly. Sir Roger is of the firm opinion that it was the widow's companion who was instrumental in his disappointment in love. The picture of the widow. Stille's art of characterization comes out in these essays dealing with Sir Roger's affair of the heart. Though we never actually meet the widow in person in the essays, we are given a vivid picture of her through the words of Sir Roger. She becomes a living character even though she is not presented directly. She is beautiful as well as intelligent. She is able to hold her own in debates and discussions, being well informed and widely read. But she is a strange creature who rejoices in the admiration of her various admirers but does not return any of their love. She has a poor opinion of the male sex in general. She informs the hearts of men but never responds encouragingly to them. She combined charm with a certain dignity which kept her admirers at a distance even while informing their hearts. Her voice was sweet and she could sing beautifully. She was so confident of her own qualities that she could not be offended by any of her rejected lovers. She knew all the arts of coquetry and used them to great extent without however, involving her true feelings. She had extraordinary and intellectual interest like studying bass. She was always accompanied by her confidant to whom she told all her secret observation on the male sex in general. She is apparently a woman of beauty and intellect, but one without a soft heart. Death of Sir Roger by Joseph Addison. We last night received a piece of ill news at our club, who is very sensibly afflicted, every one of us. I question not but my readers themselves will be troubled at the hearing of it, to keep them no longer in suspense. Sir Roger de Coverley is dead. He departed this life at his house in the country after a few weeks' sickness. Sir Andrew Freeport has a letter from one of his correspondents in those parts that informs him the old man caught a cold at the country seasons, as he was very warmly promoting an addresses of his own penning in which he succeeded according to his wishes. But this particularly comes from a weak justice of peace, who was always Sir Roger's enemy and antagonist. I have later bought from the chaplains and Captain Sentry, who is mentioned nothing of it, but are filled with many particulars to the honor of the good old man. I have likewise a letter from the butler who took so much care of me last summer when I was at the knight's house, as my friend the butler mentions in the simplicity of his heart. Several circumstances the other have passed over in silence. I shall give my reader a copy of his letter, without any alteration or diminution. Honored Sir, knowing that you was my old master's good friend, I could not forbear sending you to melancholy news of his death, which has afflicted the whole country as well as his poor servants who loved him, I may say, better than we did our lives. I'm afraid he caught his death the last country seasons where he would go to the sea justice done to a poor widow woman and her fatherless children that had been wronged by a neighboring gentleman. For you know, sir, my good master was always the poor man's friend. Upon his coming home, the first complaint he made was that he had lost his roast beef stomachs, not being able to touch a sirloin, which was served up according to custom, and you know he used to take great delight in it. From that time forward he grew odds and odds, but still kept a good heart to the last. Indeed, we were once in great hope of his recovery, upon the kind message that was sent him from the widow lady, whom he had made love to the last 40 years of his life. But this only proved a lightning before death. He has bequeathed to this lady, as a token of his love, a great pearl necklace and a couple of silver bracelets set with jewels, which belonged to my good old lady his mother. He has bequeathed the fine white gelding that he used to ride a hunting upon to his chaplain, because he thought he would be kind to him, and has left you all his books. He has moreover bequeathed to the chaplain a very pretty tenement with good lands about it, it being a very cold day when he made his will, he left for mourning to every man in the parish a great fresh coat, and to every woman a black riding hood. It was a moving sight to see him take leave of his poor servants, commending us all for our fidelity, whilst we were not able to speak a word for weeping. As we most of us are grown grey-headed in our dear master's service, he has left us pensions and legacies, which we may live very comfortably upon the remaining part of our days. He has bequeathed a great deal more in charity which is not yet come to my knowledge, and it is peremptorily said in the parish that he has left money to build chapel to the church. For he was here to say some time ago that if he lived 2 years longer, Cavalli Church should have steeply to it. The chaplain tells everybody that he made a very good end and never speaks of him without tears. He was buried according to his own directions among the family of the Cavallis on the left hand of his father Sir Arthur. The coffin was carried by 6 of his tenants and the pall held up by 6 of the quorum. The whole parish followed the corpse with happy hearts and eat their morning sweets. The men in frieze and the women in riding hoods. Captain Sentley, my master's nephew, has taken possession of the whole house and the whole estate. When my old master saw him a little before his death, he shook him by the hand and wished him joy of the estate which was fallen to him, desiring him only to make a good use of it, and to pay the several legacies and the gifts of charity which he told him he had left as quit rents upon the estate. The captain truly seems a courteous man, though he says but little. He makes much of those whom my master loved, and shows great kindness to the old house dog that my poor master was so fond of. It would have gone to your heart to have heard the moans the dumb creature made on the day of my master's death. He has never joyed himself since, no more has any of us. It was the melancholiest day for the poor people that ever happened in Worcestershire, this being all from Honored Sir, your most sorrowful servant, Edward Biscuit. P.S. My master desired some weeks before he died that a book which comes up to you by the carrier should be given to Sir Andrew Freeport in his name. his letter, notwithstanding the poor butler's manner of writing it, gave us such an idea of our good old friend that upon the reading of it, there was not a dry eye in the club. Sir Andrew, opening the book, found it to be a collection of Acts of Parliament. There was in particular the Act of Uniformity, with some passages in it marked by Sir Roger's own hand. Sir Andrew found that they related to 2 or 3 points which he had disputed with Sir Roger the last time he appeared at the club. Sir Andrew, who would have been merry at such an incident on another occasion at the sight of the old man's writing, burst into tears and put the book in his pocket. Captain Sentry informs me that the night has left rings and mourning for every one in the club.